Hi, good afternoon, everybody. We'll just give it a few minutes while folks come into the room. And then we'll get started. Let's see. Hope everybody's having a good afternoon. All right, so good afternoon again. My name is Jenna Beth Ferguson. I'm with the Healthcare Facilities Symposium and Expo, and we're happy to have you join us in our webinar series this afternoon, and would like to thank the folks at InPro for sponsoring and providing today's content. Before we get into the webinar, I'm just going to make a couple brief housekeeping announcements. The first one is that today's webinar is accredited for CEUs for both the AIA and the IDCEC. And what we will do is send certificate of completions to all participants on today's webinar. You'll receive that no later than by next Monday, and that will have the AIA number and the IDCEC number, which you can self-report, or you can use it to report to other organizations if you need it as well. We will take questions for today's webinar. We'll do them at the end. So if you'd like to hang on to them, or if you put them in the chat, I'll just keep track of them. And at the end, we'll have Ryan answer them. So speaking of Ryan, without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Ryan Russler with InPro, and he will lead today's webinar.
Awesome. Thanks, Jenna Beth, for the introduction. I'm going to wave to everybody, see the man behind the curtain here. Again, my name is Ryan Russler. I'm one of the product managers here for our door and wall protection division at InPro Corporation. Hopefully everybody's having a good last few weeks of their summer. And if you have kids at home, sending them back off to school could either be a happy or a sad thing. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to unshare my video and then share my PowerPoint. One moment. All right. Durability by design. Just a few quick, short housekeeping items. Jenna Beth mentioned their certificate, so I don't need to recover that. Just one other reminder, this presentation is protected by US and international copyright laws. Any reproduction, distribution, display, and use of the presentation without written permission of InPro Corporation is prohibited. All right, our course description. Science teaches us that matter moves from order to disorder. Amazingly, the same thing can happen to buildings. What once was sparkling and new can eventually slide into disrepair. Building owners can simply surrender to it, or they can proactively take a stand and fight for their buildings. They can choose products that protect the interior from damage in the first place. Architects and interior designers can also slow the hands of time by thinking long-term and specifying door and wall protection products to not only preserve their design, but also as a service to building owners long after that ribbon is cut. So I'll go over today's learning objectives. We're going to explore how the proper installation of wall protection products, when specified with standard wall construction options, determines their effectiveness in interior applications. We're going to recognize when to specify wall cladding versus targeted wall protection, examine the best practice options for achieving effective and aesthetically pleasing interior protection, and discover strategies to successfully design for the long term by avoiding the trap of first cost value engineering. So let's begin by talking about what it means to design for the long term. Decisions are made every day about interior protection elements that have a lasting impact on how the facility will look after it's occupied. Unless those real costs of those elements are factored into the decision-making process, facility owners will continue to trade long-term performance for short-term savings. You as the architect or interior designer can have a direct hand in preserving your design, your vision for the interior spaces. The thinking here is making sure your work looks as good 5 or 10 years down the road as it did the day the ribbon was cut. Two big things come into play here. So damage diminishes the overall look and feel of the space. It can lead to a bad first impression, not only for you and your firm, but the client and their brand as well. If you find yourself getting, if you ever find yourself getting care at a hospital, for example, and you notice there's doors and walls that have dings or scratches or broken drywall, you may really question what level of care you're about to receive in that facility. Same goes if you're staying at a nice hotel or having a nice dinner with your spouse, and you just see the building looks a little dilapidated. The other things might not matter. You're going to get that bad first impression. So that's where door and wall protection products can help make that building or space look as new as long as possible. And then the other thing that really comes into play is repair and replacement that happens after the fact. So after the building was designed or renovated, it may not necessarily be done after the fact to your original decor intent. Those decisions would then be made up to facilities maintenance personnel who may not have that same vision for that space that you once had. So now a real life example, a major retail chain did not dial in their interior protection into their construction standards for their new stores. Almost like clockwork, about 6 months after the grand opening, the store manager calls to complain of battered checkout lanes, scratched up walls and halls in the fitting rooms, and really just overall bad feel throughout the building. The manager's tale of woe inevitably ends with, I need some corner guards, wall guards, and car bumpers pronto. We understand how important project budgets are, and keeping to that budget means a successful project. We're simply saying that the adoption of life cycle costing versus focusing on first costs enhances the user satisfaction while reducing the cost over the long term. So what we're really stressing here is that including interior protection products early in that design process can have a long-lasting positive impact. But these decisions and product selections need to be understood. Knowing how a building is used will indicate how a building is being abused. So when we compare a school to a hotel or an airport or a hospital, we know that they will experience a tremendous amount of abuse, even though each building type has significantly different purposes. Yet the commonality is that interior damage is going to occur. So a best practice, put yourself in the shoes of the occupants and the activities being conducted in that space with a particular eye to minimizing damage. And when we mean take a walk through your decision, turn off all other distractions and just think, where would damage likely occur? And what level of damage do you think is going to happen in those areas, whether it be light to moderate or even severe damage? Then start jotting down all the locations and levels at each one. You might be surprised by just how many places there are. And even if you go into your local grocery store or other, just throughout your daily life, I know with the position that I'm in now working at Inpro, I notice if there's scratches, dents, dings anywhere in doors and walls, it's almost a sickness, but you'll really start to notice those areas that aren't taken care of. So through that kind of observation and experience, you can provide a clear direction in identifying the location and types of interior protection that are needed. So we'll kind of begin here with the guts of the building. You obviously know what drywall is. It's the baseline wall construction kind of material. There's also cement board, which offers increased resistance to higher levels of abuse and may be used in moisture applications. So it's often used in selected areas that require that moisture resistance. You have fire rated plywood, which offers an increased resistance to higher levels of abuse and offers also a more secure fastening for mechanical systems to the wall, for example, like a handrail or a wall guard. Those are used in targeted areas to increase protection from known or anticipated heavy abuse. And then CMU wall systems, concrete masonry units. These are the 2-hour fire rated walls often seen in school gymnasiums and mechanical rooms. CMU walls may be cladded with wall protection materials to help reduce the need for repainting or even soften the look aesthetically and look less like brick. They may be they must, though, if you put wall cladding on them, sanded to a matte finish with a thin coat of compound to prevent any telescoping through the sheet material. You don't want to be able to see that glue or the grout lines through the wall protection product. With CMU's adhesive will take longer to set up for the installer because it can't evaporate as readily as with other substrates listed here. And then also in the guts of the building, you have your strapping and blocking. So beneath the wall surface, you may need to consider additional support for handrails or other wall protection, just to ensure the safety and security of those materials. And a good example would be bariatric handrails, where they require a really heavy weight load. Strapping and blocking would be a must for an application like that. So two main options would include metal strapping and wood blocking, which are spaced 16 inches on center with vertical studs. Metal strapping is generally done with 16 gauge by 6-inch wide material, plus a 1/2-inch layered plywood. And then self-tapping screws would adhere the handrail product or wall guard product to that. In the wood blocking scenario, usually 2x6 boards are used with a gypsum board 5/8 inch thick over the top. So now we're going to turn our attention rather to the individual elements of wall protection and concentrate on two specific topics. The first being wall cladding. For wall cladding, just think of applying materials to protect large areas over the face of a wall, so big spaces. And then targeted wall protection would be the other. Obviously, as the name implies, this would deal more with products that are specifically designed to absorb impact and protect the underlying wall. The first good example of a wall cladding protective product would be flexible wall protection. So with flexible wall protection, they're products that have really been gaining popularity. They're an 040 nominal thickness, which is as thick as many rigid wall protection products in the market. But they offer a nice aesthetic look and more of the feel of a vinyl wall covering. So if you're familiar with like type 2 wall covering or type 3 wall covering, kind of the flexible wall protection is the newest version of that. I like to refer to it as sort of wallpaper on steroids. Flexible wall protection can withstand moderate abuse without looking like most traditional wall protection options because it's adhered to the wall similar to wallpaper. So it has that seamless appearance to it when it's the finished product. And what designers and architects have really loved about it the most is that it has a nice texture to it. Each pattern has its own unique texture, and there are many patterns and colorways available. We see it most often specified in both healthcare and hospitality applications. It looks great in common areas such as lobbies, meeting spaces, cafeterias or corridors. Casinos is another market that will purchase these because it has a nice rich look to it. But you can imagine all the foot traffic and people that go in and out of a casino. It holds up. It holds up to the damage of that. One important thing: proper surface preparation for the wall is required. As the adhesive, we want to make sure that it prevents any mold from developing behind the wall cladding. Solid surface wall cladding. So think of this sort of as the material that goes on countertops. Solid surface is an excellent and durable solution for spaces like operating rooms and other sterile environments like that. It's a nice premium material. Here in the picture, we show a 1/4 inch thick solid surface sheet on drywall to protect an emergency department corridor. But yeah, like I said, operating rooms is a big market for this. Obviously, what makes it great is it's a non-porous material. It's very easy to clean. It can be repairable, has a long life cycle. Many colors are available. It can be Green Guard certified, and it can be made from rapidly renewable content. Of course, because it's a premium material, it is going to be a higher cost in the front end, but the installation overall is less expensive. Sticking with that theme, for production environments, operating rooms, washrooms, commercial kitchens, or really anywhere where cleanliness is really important, where you might wash down the walls or anything like that. Stainless steel products and hygienic wall cladding products should be considered. So stainless steel wall bases, they can come pre-configured to complete a floor to wall transition, which allows for easy cleaning. It prevents water or dirt buildup. Inside and outside corner pieces are available prefabricated as well to make the installation even easier. The wall base can be compatible with various flooring types and wall substrates as well, in which the wall base itself has channels on the bottom and on the top of the stainless steel wall base that you can't even see in this picture, but they're there. That makes it a completely seamless and waterproof system overall. And then when you look at the wall, the hygienic wall cladding is also built for those harsher environments where heat and humidity and moisture can be ever changing. So what's commonly been made from fiberglass-based materials, so FRP, it also comes available now in non-fiberglass material, while still offering a high impact resistance and cleanability. Hygienic wall cladding is inherently made with products that aren't susceptible to expansion and contraction within the environment. So if the material gets hot or cold or wet or dry, it's not going to buckle onto it, the sheet next to it. Also being a non-FRP product, you don't have that harmful dust or cracking associated to it when you cut it. How it's installed is it is basically glued to the walls with common adhesives in the market, or it can be mechanically fastened as well, using rivets, color match rivets for the additional support. Once it's installed, the product itself can be pressure washed, and intensive disinfectants can be used. So that's where we really see it as a nice sort of value engineered option to the solid surface product I just spoke of. It's less expensive, but still rated well for the environment that they're meant to go in. What I would say has been the most popular product, at least from a designer's perspective over the last several years, would be printed wall protection. Especially when trade shows were a thing before COVID, this really got the most attention. So it's really a designer's best friend because it can add a personalized and customized element to any design space. You can choose from high resolution images from a reputable online source like a Getty Images, or you can provide your own custom photography, so long as it meets certain photo quality standards. You can't just take a cell phone picture with your iPhone and use it once it's blown up on a wall. But as long as your custom photography met a certain level, it can be done. And then, so with that image, then it is printed on the back of a clear PETG sheet. And that's really important because it's printed on the back of a clear sheet. If you scratch it or anything like that, that ink isn't going to come off. So your image is completely protected on the back side of the sheet. Most often we see printed wall protection specified in common areas of buildings, such as an elevator lobby or even just feature walls. Basically places with a lot of foot traffic where you really want to show that art piece off and you want it to be appreciated. Nature scenes are really common. They obviously promote a nice biophilic design element for healthcare. And then possibilities are really endless. You can display your company, your customer's brand, provide a method of wayfinding. For example, in a huge hospital, a nurse is trying to give somebody directions throughout the building. It's like, okay, once you get to the printed wall with a tree, take a left. That's a great example of how to use it. Or even we're seeing college campuses use their school mascot's logo for some of their common areas and such. But not only does it look great, but it also provides a long-lasting wall protection that these spaces really require at the end of the day. So it's not just art, but it's functional as well. Extruded plastic wall cladding materials. This is the most common and probably what most people on the call are familiar with. It can come in standard size flat good sheets, or it can come in rolls as well. There's a variety of standard thicknesses in the market. The most common is 040 inch thick or 1 millimeter thick. This is really used to eliminate the need for constant repainting where repeated scuffing wears through that top layer of drywall. 060 thickness is also popular. Really protects more against gouges of the wall. It's used as kick plates on doors, or maybe behind the bed of a patient room in a senior living or a healthcare setting. Even thicknesses up to 080 are used for maximum protection, and they're often used on top of cement board or fire rated plywoods. Basically, the thicker the material, the more protection it provides. And it's really up to the architect or designer to determine, again, what areas of the building are going to experience the most damage, and what kind of damage. Is it wheelchair scrapes, or is it gurneys, coming through a door, smacking the door, throughout the life of that building. With extruded plastic wall cladding, there is a subtle texture that's added to the sheet, which helps hide those scuffs, but it's also smooth enough too where it is easily cleanable. So you really don't want a completely smooth sheet in this case, because it's going to show every scratch. So then at that point, what's the point of having wall protection? So that subtle texture really helps hide any of those scrapes that could occur. Regarding the installation, it's very easy to do. Installing extruded plastic wall cladding just uses adhesive. There's really no need for any mechanical fastening measures. A 1/16 inch gap is recommended between each sheet to allow for any natural expansion and contraction that could occur, like sunlight coming through a window, for example, and the wall maybe gets warm in the afternoon. You want to allow for that expansion and contraction. Trim pieces are available to complete the look, or color match caulk can be used as well to help seal all the edges and seams. Regarding on the decision, whether to use caulk or trim, it's really up to the designer on what the look is that they want to achieve. An additional consideration in finishing the sheet, whether it be through the trim pieces or the color match caulk, there's really two factors that go into making that decision. I mentioned the aesthetic look of it. The application of trims provides a more highly finished look to the installation, and caulks finish the seam only, but they do provide some appearance smoothing by making the seam look less visible, the color matching aspect of it. But there's also the cost. The installation of trims can be more expensive because it's more time consuming on the installer to do. And then obviously cutting the trims and placing them. So caulk can be a less expensive option, and less labor intensive. One small bit of caution on applying trim to sheet, the trim pieces do protrude a bit from the wall. So it would be possible for a cart or gurney or wheelchair or something to snag and tear off that trim piece. It's rare, it hardly ever happens, but it can happen. Caulk may be the better finishing option for seams where the snag potential could be high. I mentioned earlier that sheet wall protection can also come in rolled goods. And the main benefits of a rolled sheet product is the contractor then can determine himself or herself where the length of pieces that they really need. So it can really reduce seams on the wall. However, we do still recommend that there should be no lengths greater than 12 feet without a seam to help allow for that natural expansion and contraction that can occur. Another benefit of rolls, if space is limited on a job site, or there's not a lot of storage space, rolls, they come in a nice, tightly wound box. So just another thing to consider. It's a very durable product, sheet is. It's designed to last a lifetime. It's not a temporary solution. And it can stand up to common and harsh, cleaning products, which is obviously especially important in healthcare. If in the future color trends change, or you may want to replace the sheet material with something new, the wall cladding can be removed, but it will take that paper layer of the drywall off with it. And then that sheet can no longer be recycled because there would be adhesive and drywall residue on that product. However, a solution, it is possible using a contact cement type adhesive where you could install sheet over the top of existing sheet. Really, in my experience, we see the whites and beiges and grays, really the neutral colors being the most popular, just because the trends don't change as much with the neutrals. But more of a warning that it is meant to be more of a permanent, longer lasting product. Regarding different materials that are used for wall cladding, polyvinyl chloride or vinyl, PVC, is by far the most extensively used polymer in the construction of buildings. You'll see vinyls used for siding, residential siding or windows, wall coverings, flooring, piping, membrane roofing. For interior protection, rigid PVC is an excellent choice for both its impact resistance, color consistency, moldability, and its lower price point. You then have polycarbonates and ABS plastics. Polycarbs are a family of very durable plastics. They're best known to consumers as being the base material for CDs and DVDs. ABS then is lightweight and has the ability to be injection molded and extruded, making it useful in numerous manufacturing products such as drain and waste, vent pipe systems, musical instruments, automotive bumper bars, headgear, whitewater canoes, and even small kitchen appliances and toys like Legos use ABS plastics. Polyesters and include PET and PETG plastics. They're a thermoplastic polymer resin of the polyester family, and they're used extensively in the manufacturing of beverage, food, and other liquid containers. If you look at the bottom of your water bottle, you'll likely see that there's a PET abbreviation on it. PETG is used extensively in clear shelving and retail products and point of purchase displays. The polyethylenes, medium density and high density polyethylene, are another of the petroplastics. It's probably best known as a material used to produce milk jugs. Other applications that it's used in would be plastic lumber, folding chairs and tables, and it's even used in plastic surgery for skeletal and facial reconstruction surgeries. Because of its high recyclability, HDPE consumer packaging can be reborn into other goods and materials, very recyclable. And then finally, bioplastic blends, which can be PETGs with biopolymers. They hold the current position as the ideal plastic and what all producers and users should strive for. They're considered the best by the fact that they use the least amount of fossil fuels to manufacture them, and they're derived from rapidly renewable resources. As the name implies, biopolymers or organic polymers are a form of plastic derived from renewable biomass sources such as vegetable oil, cornstarch, wheat gluten, or pea starch. Basically said in another way, all bioplastics begin with a living organism. While there are numerous experimental forms of bioplastics being derived from such diverse sources, we're going to confine our discussion here to industrial grade plant-based biopolymers, specifically polylactic acid, PLAs. So that concludes the wall cladding section. Next, we'll talk about targeted wall protection, which is really designed to defend those specific trouble areas where you really expect direct kind of damage to take place on a wall or door surface. So it's important to identify the causes of abuse. So what could collide with a wall? Are the chairs in the lobby or waiting room all the same size, and are they, constantly rubbing against the same location on the wall? Where would it be most common for wheelchairs or luggage carts to come in contact with various parts of the facility? Hopefully all this thinking is done on the front end and not after the fact. So what you need to consider is the product's protrusion from the wall, whether it be flush against the wall or if that targeted wall protection needs to stick out, maybe 3 inches or more off of the wall. And also consider the protection product's combined strength with the wall construction behind it. So that gets to the strapping and blocking that I talked about earlier. So in speaking to the targeted wall protection, wall guards are one of the first products that comes to mind. A couple of examples would be a multi-component system shown in the picture on the left, or a single material system. So the multi-component wall guard systems are most often made up of a retainer, which is the part that attaches to the wall, a cover which snaps over the top, and then you have end caps that finish each end. A plastic bumper then is hidden on the inside, which is made of a plastic that provides really the wall guard with its impact strength or shock absorption, if you will. Multi-component systems are commonly used in high traffic areas. You'll often see them in hospitals or healthcare settings. And they can come in a lot of different colors, wood grain finishes, and other patterns as well. On the single material system side, it's really just a singular component that can take, heavy duty impact. Often used in back of house applications, materials like plastic lumber can protect against damage from carts or even like forklifts or other hazards. Or rub rails would be another example that we'll talk about in a few slides. So wall guards, they're designed to take that impact dead on versus the wall cladding material that we talked about earlier. It's more for scrapes. They offer a really long service life. The cover is very durable, and as well as the end caps. The retainers themselves come in standard 12-foot lengths. They're made out of aluminum, or they can come in 2-inch clips as well. And that clip system is really a value engineered cost-saving system that eliminates the need for cutting aluminum on site. One tricky part though is that it does take more time because you have more clips to install, and the contractor needs to make sure that they're aligned perfectly using a laser level. So then your wall guard isn't sort of crooked in appearance when it's on the wall. Wall guards in general, like you can see in the picture, again, they're strategically placed. They don't have to be placed at any particular portion of the wall. But knowing, like you see in the bottom there, that would be for a wheelchair damage. And then the top would be whatever types of carts that are used, whether it be laundry carts or gurneys or things of that nature. So that retainer is mechanically fastened to the wall to help take that blow. Materials included here with all extruded plastics. They may contribute to LEED credits, long life cycle. The plastic cover and end caps can be replaced very easily if you be deciding to change colors or even just if they need replacement parts over the long term. What's more is the wall guard retainer and cover can be factory formed too if you have a radius condition or a curved wall. That is possible with a wall guard. Rub rail products, similar to the extruded plastic wall cladding, the sheet material I spoke about earlier. This is really used as more of a focus, targeted area of a wall. Still made from the same durable extruded polymers. They're available in many colors and patterns, easily cleanable too. The widths of them can be customized to meet the application's needs. So typically full scale sheet material comes in 4 foot wide, wainscot height, if you will. You can determine how wide you want your rub rail to be depending on the protection that is required. Unlike a wall guard, they will sit directly flush against the wall. They're really meant for minor abuse. In a way, they're just a lower cost, lower impact version of a wall guard. They're installed with adhesive, and then they're factory beveled as well. So if someone were to run their finger across it, it's less sharp, and it just the bevel just provides more of a finished look. As you see in the photo, rub rails are often used in behind chairs as a sort of a chair rail in doctors' offices or even in just commercial spaces as well. You could also use the same thing could be accomplished using a chair rail. So speaking of chair rails, they're very similar to a wall guard, but they're designed to take more of a moderate impact instead of a high impact. Really the main reason is the components are the same. You have your retainer, cover, and end caps, but with because they're a smaller profile, a chair rail, they don't have that impact bumper on the inside that a wall guard would have. Chair rails, though, they can be a little bit more on the decorative side, and they're generally installed, between 32 and 36 inches above the finished floor, or really at whatever height is required. Decorative chair rails also can provide greater aesthetics compared to wall guards and chair your plastic chair rails. But they're primarily intended more for lower impact applications, or maybe even more just for decorative purposes. They can be made from a molded solid wood or an MDF material, which allows them to be easily painted or stained, either factory painted or stained, or in the field. Over time, though, with real wood products, they can show scratches or abuse, and they may need to be repainted or replaced. Some real wood decorative chair rails are equipped with impact bumpers on them, so like a little thin sort of piece of rubber to help take some of that blow. Handrails. So obviously with handrails, they provide that functional need, mostly in healthcare and senior living, corridors. But they can also provide a wall protection element as well. For example, the picture on the left, obviously you see a handrail on top, and then your wall guard system, kind of an all-in-one encompassing system there on the bottom. Single material systems provide the gripping surface only, so it's kind of more your traditional handrail that you may think of. But either option can be coordinated well with the rest of the building, with the wall cladding or other targeted wall protection that is going along with it. That multi-component system you see on the left there with the wall guard, that has an impact bumper on the inside. So with handrails, there are tons of different shapes and sizes, widths, and different looks that you can get. But really what's consistent among handrails is they need to have that similar gripping surface dimension in order to meet ADA code compliance. So obviously safety is first and foremost when it comes to handrails. The traditional handrails are composed of an aluminum retainer, like a wall guard. You have plastic brackets that allow it to stick off of the wall. And then return pieces that, like the name implies, return back to the wall, holding it flush against the wall. Brackets then are mechanically fastened to the wall, and they are tested to meet weight load requirements. Obviously, in a bariatric scenario, they need to be tested and approved for a much higher weight load requirement. Our materials, the polymers used are Class A fire rated, like all the other materials of door and wall protection. Handrails are installed between 34 and 38 inches off of the finished floor, which is an ADA compliance thing. And then the covers and returns can be easily replaced or updated as required. So if you ever wanted to change out the color, that's possible. Or if you just see damage done, it can be easily replaced. A few best practices when it comes to installing handrails with wall cladding, which a lot of people like to do. They like to combine it with with sheet product or maybe a wall panel below it or something like that. Is returns should really fit flush against the vertical surface. This protects the long-term integrity of the handrail for if and when it's ever heavily impacted by something. You don't want that to get wobbly or just kind of feel like it's loose. So having it flush against the wall really helps. And then returns really should not straddle different thicknesses. So you want to assure the portion of the handrail that's in touch with the wall, so the bracket, is completely flat and even, and at the same to the same extent as the returns are. Now we'll talk about corner guards, which is another very common industry product. And again, there's two basic types. There's your multi-component system for high impact abuse that has a retainer, a cover, and then a top cap and bottom cap to finish it off. And then the single material systems could be a tape on or adhesive mounted plastic corner guard, or some other material like an aluminum or a stainless steel system. Stainless steel corner guards have become increasingly popular from both an aesthetic point of view and they obviously can withstand really heavy abuse. So we see these in back of house applications or front of house applications. 304 or 430 alloys are available, and which can conform to NSF standards for direct food contact. They can be installed with screws or with just regular adhesive. They're often more expensive on the front end, especially just given the supply chain constraints and the world we live in today. But they do have a very long life cycle. They can essentially last forever. And they may even contribute to LEED credits. Rubber corner guards is another durable material use, often for back of house applications. They can really take a really heavy duty impact. They're sold in standard lengths and they're easily cut in field. Made from rapidly renewable sources and can contribute to LEED credits as well. They're recommended to be installed mechanically, so with screws, just given the applications that they take, or the impact that they're designed to take. They have a really long life cycle, and we also see them used in parking garages as well. So rubber can be used in both interior and exterior applications. Surface mounted multi-component system. So this is that retainer system I showed earlier that they're designed to take heavy impacts. And really there's two retainer options. The traditional one is aluminum, which has been used for decades, similar to the wall guards. But there's also plastic retainer options, which is really a win-win for everybody. It's less expensive, but not only is it less expensive, but it can actually withstand a greater impact. Because plastic is just kind of naturally flexible and less rigid than aluminum. It actually gives the corner guard itself a better shock absorption. It can take really more abuse, up to 4 times more abuse actually than aluminum can. So I talk to customers all the time about that. And it's really a win-win for everybody. It's less expensive and a better performing product. Then a cover is snapped over the top, available in many colors and finishes. And then the top and bottom caps help hide the retainer. Corner guards can either go, full height on the wall, partial height. They can go over the base trim, or they could stop at the base trim. It's really up to you, the designer or architect, to determine what you want that aesthetic to be. On the surface mount corner guard side, this would be your single material system. So these would be your tape-ons or adhesive mounted. Really, these are found everywhere. I challenge you to go to any building and not find corner guards like these. Healthcare, hotels, commercial buildings, you name it. They're really designed for a moderate abuse. They don't have a retainer for that heavy abuse application. So really scuffs is what it's preventing. But it also can reinforce the wall cladding that's on the wall, whether it be, sheet material or even vinyl wall coverings. It's very easy to install. Even I could install it. And I'm not a contractor, not even close. Various wing sizes and lengths are available. Different wing or degrees are available. So 90 degrees, your most common, 135 degree, and custom angles are available as well on an as needed basis. You can get bull nose rounded corner guards too. And then I'm a little biased, but extruded plastic. So the colored, pattern and colored corner guards, in my opinion, provide, better aesthetic for the long term because the colors really don't fade versus polycarbonates, the clear corner guards, which are also popular. They can sort of yellow over time. And then you kind of see what's behind that corner guard. But either, polycarb or your basic PVC polymer corner guards both work in applications like these. There's also another high impact corner guard that's the flush mount variety, really designed more for new construction and major renovations because the aluminum retainer is actually built within the drywall construction itself. And then that cover then fits over the top. So what your end result is your corner guard is literally built within the wall versus a corner guard that's going to protrude off the wall slightly. These are generally done in floor to ceiling applications. There's fire rated versions available, whether it be an hour or 2-hour fire rated option, which combines the aluminum retainer with a galvanized metal behind it and a fire blanket. They are more expensive on the front end than standard surface mount corner guards because there is more aluminum involved. But they do have a very long life cycle, and despite the corner guard being built within the wall, the cover is recyclable and replaceable as well if things were ever to change. On the wall panel side, there are really what protective wall panels are is it's a sheet material product that's laminated or pressed to a core material, which provides just a high impact solution and just another aesthetic option. They can be used in many ways, whether it be a feature full height wall or a wainscot wall going down a corridor. Offers the same protection qualities as sheet product does, but just gives that different look. A big benefit is that it can look like real wood, like in the example here, but it stands up to damage. So maybe at like the counter of a restaurant, a fast food chain or something like that, where it's constantly getting kicked, that might be a good place to put a wall panel because it's going to look rich like real wood, but it gives that impact protection that is required. There's several different types of wall panel options to choose from. The first shown here would be a 3D board trim system where it combines inside, outside corners, top caps, wall bases, vertical boards, kind of the whole thing with just standard flat sheet material to give it that sort of three-dimensional look. You have what we call an exposed square edge panel system, which the panels come in standard sizes with none of the edges finished, but it allows the contractor to cut on site to get exact measurements he would need. And then it's finished with aluminum trim system. And then the full wrap panel system, as you see in the far right there, those are made to order. So once they arrive on site, they're ready to be installed. They typically would require though custom measurements, so they're made exactly to the size that the contractor would need them. But they're fully wrapped, so any damage or anything that's done to them, that entire panel is protected, and that material cannot delaminate from that core. It's a good transition into elevator renovations. So regarding elevators in the US and Canada, there's approximately 1 million elevators. Each one carries an average of 20,000 people, which results in a lot of trips, 20 billion trips annually. According to the National Elevator Industry Incorporated, the average rise of an elevator is 4 to 5 floors. So you add up all that, elevators are taking a lot of trips. It's 2,700 trips to the moon and back, actually. So over time, elevator interiors can get damaged, especially if the cab is used for both passengers and freight. Even if freight movers are using, padded blankets, you're still going to see scuffs and gouges in the elevator. Then there's the simple aesthetics. Styles can change over time. The cab can start to look dated. Personal story: my wife hates getting in elevators. She's afraid of elevators. If the elevator that we would go into looked like the one on the left, I feel like she would not want to get into it. So the aesthetics can really help put people at ease and really gives a better impression to the overall building itself by having a nice, clean looking elevator. The elevator panels and walls can be made up of many different materials, whether it be a wall panel, stainless steel, or other materials. Most cabs are not designed to withstand these impacts and are subject to being damaged where the contact is made. So you may see cracks or chips, dents, things like that in your typical cab. And again, it's that perception. You don't want to give off that bad first impression of your overall building when you think of how many people are in and out of elevators. So maintaining the brand image of the facility is of utmost importance for people trying to retain clients, give visitors a pleasant experience. For example, the picture shown here is at a children's hospital. You think of kids maybe going in for an operation, they're scared. They get in an elevator like this, and it takes their attention away from what they're going in there for. The other areas that you can see some customization would be on a branding level. So branding is a very powerful and useful addition to a cab. Some logos and graphics can be added relatively inexpensively, but also you're incorporating that durable impact resistance with those wall panels within it. The example shown here, so North Carolina, Charlotte, they use logo panels in the renovation of cabs at their business school. And on the right, you see UNC Wilmington, where they use the cab walls to display their school colors and their logo. Ceilings come in many different styles and different lighting options. Lighting may not seem to be like a big deal, but when you take into consideration, in most cases, lights stay on 24/7. They're running 8,700 hours a year, which is a lot of energy and a lot of money. Most incandescent and fluorescent bulbs are rated for about 5,000 hours, where LEDs can be up to 50,000 hours, which switching to LEDs could save as much as 90% in energy consumption. Another important aspect of the elevator is the amount of lighting in the cab. People are more comfortable in a cab that's well lit, and a brighter ceiling can help make the cab look newer and cleaner with the increased lighting output. You may not think as much about the handrails in the elevator unless you're trying to meet those ADA codes. But this is another very important aspect to the elevator cab, especially if somebody is elderly or they're have an injury of some kind and they're looking for something to grab onto the elevator. This is something that should really be considered. But also it kind of doubles as a crash guard too. Somebody coming in with carrying all their luggage on one of those carts and smacks into the wall, it's going to catch on that handrail / wall guard. Last quick section here would be back of house and loading docks. You don't want to forget those. Products to consider for back of house would be MDPE and HDPE, wall cladding products. Your heavy duty plastics can be in like diamond plate sheet, for example, as shown here. There's wall guards and corner guards that can be made from rubber, can also be used, and stainless steel wall guards are another great option for back of house. The MDPE wall cladding, the diamond plate variety, is Class B fire rated, which Class B fire rating really suffices for those back of house areas because there's not as many human foot traffic. Can be easily fabricated, and it's mechanically fastened to the wall. Regarding stainless steel wall guards can take very heavy abuse. Again, they're more expensive on the front end, but they really never need to be replaced because they can take such a damage. And they can be flush to the wall, or they can come as protruding off the wall with brackets. They can even contribute to LEED credits as well. And then finally, plastic lumber. Plastic lumber has long been used sort of as a for decking material, but it's become a popular back of house product as well, just because it's so durable. Like if it can handle the snow and sun and elements outside, it can certainly handle the back of house of a building. These materials are single material systems. They're mechanically fastened. Plugs are available to fill the holes, and they're miter cut in field. So it cuts just like real wood. Looks similar to wood, and it provides a really heavy duty protection against forklifts and powered carts and things that you find in the back of house of a lot of buildings. So basically what we're saying is no matter what type of building or area within the building or what type of wall construction, there's a good chance it will need some type of protection from wear and tear. And when designing interiors to last, remember, the only way that they can make an impact, an impact hinges on how well they can take an impact. So that concludes my presentation. I can tee it back up to Jenna Beth if any questions came through, or if there's any questions that come after this, I'd be happy to take them offline as well.
Great. Thank you very much, Ryan. I had no idea there were so many cover guards or wall panel options available. So just a quick reminder, I made this at the beginning of the webinar, but we've had some folks join us since, that today's webinar is approved for both AIA and IDCEC CEU credits, and that will be sending certificates of completion to all webinar participants with those two numbers on them, which you can self-report, and those certificates will be emailed to you by Monday at the latest. If you have any questions, you can contact me or through the info at Zoom, or the Zoom address for today's webinar. All right, so without further ado, let's see what we have for questions. And let's see. All right, the first question, Ryan, is it possible to over-engineer wall and door protection?
It is a good question. We wouldn't be honest if we said no, that you can't over-engineer interior protection. But if you think of it this way, from our experience, the designer or owner, if they pinch pennies and go cheap, like a good example would be clear polycarbonate corner guards. You can buy those from Home Depot or any really big box store. But maybe 6 months down the line, those guards are maybe peeling off the wall, or they're actually showing a lot of scratches. So we caution our counsel, or any customer to level up when it comes to anticipating damage. Especially think of like we're going back to school, right? What college students can do to a dorm room. You almost have to think of the worst case scenario. So you can over engineer it, but I challenge you to actually do so.
All right, let's see. The next question we have is, what's the usual downtime when doing an elevator cab?
This is a really important question, because anytime you take an elevator out of service is not a good thing, because elevators need to be running as often as possible. So most elevator cabs, interior tear outs and replacements can be done in less than a day. It may take longer if the mechanical aspect of the cab needs to be fixed. But really, the way our products are designed is to be able to get them in and out in a day.
All right, so we've got a couple of comments coming in. We've got some other questions. So the other question is, I saw the MDPE lumber for back of house applications. Has anyone used it for outside places like loading docks or service corridors?
Yeah, so we're actually a manufacturing facility, and we use it in our back of house area. A couple other good examples. In Las Vegas, if I don't know if anybody's ever been in the back of house of a casino, but the Wynn Hotel and Casino use it in their main employee area. So places like where the main employee dining room is, employee break lounges, other corridors, really behind the scenes of a casino or even like a theme park like Disney. There's so many things happening behind the scenes there, and you really want a heavy, durable product. It doesn't necessarily need to be the most flashy or aesthetically pleasing product, but like a black or gray, just plastic lumber can really do the trick at a relatively inexpensive cost too.
All right, I think we've got time for another question or so. Let's see. I liked the image, it was a comment, I like the image-based wall cladding. What are the photo rights requirements to use images?
All right, yeah, the rights to photos is very important. Any image that is used for those wall cladding products, they do have to be, the rights must be cleared. That means if the designer or owner is providing the imagery, they have purchased or cleared the rights to them, and they need to provide the proof of that. Good manufacturers also offer access to libraries or rights cleared imagery. Getty would be a good example. I know we personally have a Getty license, so anything that's on there we know has cleared the rights.
Great. All right. Well, we are just out of time. So again, I wanted to just remind everyone, we'll be sending certificates of completion with the CEU information on it. You'll receive that by Monday. Any other questions, you can contact us, and I can also get it to Ryan and the folks at InPro. And again, I'd just like to thank you, Ryan, for your time. Thank InPro for the sponsorship for today's webinar. These are just great opportunities for us between in-person events to provide some education to the HFSC community. And having said that, though, we are looking forward to seeing everybody in person this December in Austin, Texas. So thanks again, Ryan. Thank you all for joining us today, and have a great afternoon. Take care.
Take care. Bye.